Welcome to Talk of the Town, and joining me today is Victorian leader of the Nationals, Peter Walsh. Peter, good to see you again. Welcome to the studio.
It's great to be back on the couch. It's not Monday night, but we'll get through.
Indeed. Now, what brings you up here? I think you said you're going out to the CMA to have a look at how they're going with the SDLs and so on.
I am. So, Catchment Management Authority up here, in conjunction with North Central Catchment Management Authority and the two respective water authorities, are managing the Sustainable Diversion Limit projects on the Victorian side of the river. So, particularly interested in what's going on with the Lindsay Island project. That from the Victorian point of view, that's probably the one with the largest amount of water savings. So, haven't caught up with them for, with COVID. We sort of get out of touch with these things, so an opportunity to actually refresh on where they're up to with those projects, because they are so important to deliver the water savings as part of the MurrayDarling Basin plan.
Yeah, and with your federal counterparts recently attempted to move some amendments to the MurrayDarling Basin plan. Didn't get through, but they seem to be reasonable amendments.
They were spot on. They were the things that should have been passed. They should have probably been passed a few years ago. I think one of the things, the plan was signed off at the end of 2012. There is always learnings on these things, but no one's been able to actually make the adjustments that were needed to fine-tune it from that time when it was signed off. And I think what was put forward in the Senate was actually good. Would have given farmers, particularly, or water consumers, a bit of peace of mind. And at the moment you've still got that, particularly the 450 hanging over their heads. I know there is the socio-economic test, but until it's actually taken off the table, I suppose people worry about
it. Yeah. Last time you were up here, I think COVID was still in play and the borders were being patrolled. That's of course extended. We've now got the outbreaks in New South Wales, which have led to a hard border. Not quite the same hard border. We've got police doing random checks. But what's your take on that? Have we progressed at all?
Well, I think Victoria's made a wrong call. I think making all of New South Wales and the ACT red is not the appropriate call. That if you look at the western half of New South Wales, it would be months and months since there was a COVID case. If you actually look at Canberra, it's over 12 months now since there was a COVID case in Canberra. So why would you logically make them red? I understand the issues around Sydney, and I know the New South Wales Premier, I think, has done a pretty good job over the years of over this journey of having a proportional response. I just think Victoria's call to make all of New South Wales red is not the right call. But I also give credit, they finally, I think, listened to the advice that we've been talking about to let police use the technology they have available. Let's use the number plate recognition technology they have, which they are. Let the cross-border communities actually function properly. The last thing we want is long queues on the bridge just so people can get to work or go to school or go to the doctor or go shopping. So at the moment, common sense is prevailing. Common sense is in pretty short supply when it comes to state governments around Australia making decisions at the moment, but let's hope the police continue to use that technology and some common sense.
When you were up here last, you aired your concerns about amalgamations of hospitals in Victoria, and just recently I understand that's been happening in the Wimmera.
It has. So the hospital in Horsham, Eden Hope, West Wimmera Health Service have now all been rolled in under the Ballarat Hospital, which is what the grand plan that's been articulated by the Andrews government about effectively having all the country hospitals under the control of Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo, Albury, Wodonga, Latrobe Valley is part of that plan. So it's now actually being implemented in the Wimmera. At the time, I voiced concerns about the Mildura Hospital. The local member was rather disparaging in her comments about my views. Well, I think she'll start to see now that these things are happening in other parts of the state. And as I understand it, there is more services being delivered from Bendigo here into Mildura. It's happening by stealth. There may not be a change of the sign on the gate, but behind the scenes, these things are happening.
And Peter, we were talking earlier, and you mentioned that there are some issues for Fair Work Australia at the moment regarding piece rates in the fruit industry. Just illuminate on that.
So, in the horticulture industry in particular, but also in the shearing sector, obviously, but piecework rates is where the people that work the hardest pick the most fruit, pick the most bins of oranges or whatever it might be, earn the most money. There has been a push from the unions over the years to actually get rid of piecework rates and just have everyone paid the same, irrespective of how many bins of fruit they pick or whatever. So there is a case currently with Fair Work Australia where the unions are pushing to get rid of piecework rates. That is a retrograde step for the horticulture sector, that there's no longer an incentive. If you and I are out there picking and you're twice the picker I am, which you probably would be, you would earn more money than I would. But if we're earning the same money, why would you want to work any harder? And that's just, it defies logic as to why that would be taken away. But the unions are more interested in actually just getting the wages up, irrespective of the productivity for the people who actually employ and pay those wages.
Yeah, and of course, labour shortages is the other curse affecting the industry. Are we making any headway in that area?
Well, I don't believe so, and it's really concerning. I think everyone, one way or another, by getting their extended family, their friends, whoever they could got through this year not too bad. Some people lost fruit or didn't do it as effectively as they would have liked, but it's going to be even tougher next year if we don't get some overseas workers back in. The few that did come in under the state government's program through Tasmania haven't been nearly enough for what's needed next season. So we do need a process where we can get Pacific Islanders in, where we can get people out of Asia, where we can get backpackers back here if we can get some form better system of quarantine. And as the world opens up, post everyone being vaccinated.
Excellent. Well, Peter, thanks again for your time today, and we look forward to catching up on your next visit.
Love to. Thank you.
Be sure to get all your news at milduraweekly.com.au, and of course the paper's free in your letterbox every Friday.